Are we going? Good morning, everybody. Hey, this is Doug, and you're listening to What's the Hazard? It is Friday, September 8th. Beautiful Friday here in Omaha, Nebraska. Awesome. And I'm excited to reacquaint you with an old friend. We kind of reconnected after a few years of not having interacted much, man. So I'm grateful that you reached out. You were announcing your retirement, of course, and I think rubbing my nose in that. Yes. This is John Thiem, everybody. John and I have known each other probably since the early 2000s, if not before. I think during my time with OSHA, of course.
Outreach,
Yeah, when I was the outreach guy. I was the good guy. And we've interacted for years and years since then, but it's been a while. You've been too busy to actually reach out, I think.
Yeah, been. And, COVID and everything else. It's been
that's true. Yeah. That is true, man. We got to throw that back in there.
Yeah.
I think we're all masking up here again soon, it sounds like. Is that the word that you've gotten?
Yes.
Oh, the hell with that. We're not doing that. So, well, welcome, man. It's great to see you.
Yeah. I'm
glad you reached out, and you've got some exciting news. You just retired not too long ago.
Yeah, in July. Yeah.
A 30, 40-year stint in the safety world, something like that?
Yeah, it's about 35, yeah. And
Good for you, brother.
Yeah, it's been a long time, but it seems kind of strange not to be doing it now, except for someone to start doing a little more.
Yeah, but
consulting.
now you're doing some consulting work.
Yeah.
That's exciting, and you've got your company in place.
Yep.
What's the name of your company?
It's John Thiem Safety Innovations,
I love
LLC.
That. Yep. Nice, very good. And the website, let's get this out of the way for johnthiemsafety.com.
Yep, it's John Thiem, THIEM. Safety.com. Yep.
Excellent, man.
Yep.
I'm excited. I hope we get to work together. Hope we can do some work together because
me too. Hopefully
we worked really well together back in the day. Yeah. And so, you seem like you're well rested and happy, and unlike most safety people.
Yeah, it's the other day I woke up at 7 in the morning and go, I don't feel like this. I went back to sleep till 9. It's kind of nice.
That is beautiful. Good for you. Yes. You've earned it. Well, let's talk a little bit about your safety journey, man. I mean, you sent me some information, and I loved it. In your initial comment, you said I was forced into safety in the meatpacking industry, as many people have been. So
I know a lot of people have been forced into it. Yeah.
What were you? You were obviously not intending to be a safety guy then, if that was your description.
No, actually, I have a 2-year degree in electronics, and I worked for the phone company for a few years, and they started deregulating and laid off a bunch of people. And so I said, well, there's a meat packing plant there. I'm going to go work there for a while and until I can find something else. And, was there for 17 years.
Right.
Yeah. But I started out on the production line and kind of worked up into some management into the quality aspect of it. And I knew almost all the jobs in the production area. So, they wanted to start training people as they came in. And so they said, John, you're going to be the trainer, and you supervise all those people, new hires as they come in until they're qualified on their jobs. And so I did that for a while. And then, it was around 89 when OSHA started really focusing on the meatpacking industry, on, ergonomics and, lockout and all that kind of stuff. So they told me, John, you're now the safety guy. And I go, oh boy. And they go, and here's some OSHA complaint letters that we just got. It said we needed a safety guy. So,
so have your safety guy respond to it.
Yes. And it was such a wild time because I got in there, and, one of the more severe ones in there was, somebody had said that we had a lack of a lockout tagout program, which when I investigated, we did. And, the only thing I had for lockout tagout was those dog leash clips. I'd stick them on there so they know somebody's working on it. And I go, you only have so many days to respond to those OSHA complaint letters. And finally, I went to our plant manager and go, I'm going to have to call them and tell them, hey, we don't have what we need, but we really want to get it. And so he gave me the blessings, and I did. I called, and I don't know if you remember Rinaldo Cervantes.
Oh yeah, of course.
That's who I ended up was the officer, duty officer at that time, and I pleaded for mercy, and he really walked me through the lockout tagout and sent me some example programs and kind of interpretations from the standards and stuff like that, and really helped me. And at the time I thought, boy, this safety thing I'm really getting beat up on this, and now I realize it was really good because I had to build everything from the ground up. So it was a really big learning experience. Wrote the lockout tagout program for the site, and then company put it in company wide. And
no kidding.
and so
I mean, that is a huge undertaking in a food processing, specifically meat packing
Yeah.
plant. This was a slaughter
yeah,
fabrication
slaughter
facility.
and fab, 2,000 employees.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. So
That
it
is
was,
like initiation by fire.
yeah. Luckily, it was a good company. They really did want to build up the safety, but at that time we won the safety award for the company, and we had 960 some lost days, and we still won. We won the award, for.
Oh my God.
When I left the company, though, we had 0 lost days, that year. And
Oh my God, John.
Yeah. So
well, I know personally that everywhere you've been, you have had that impact on the companies that you have worked for. So
yeah,
whatever you do, it's remarkable. You must, and maybe we can talk about that as well. The recipes that you've found that have worked and that don't work,
right,
for people that are maybe struggling with some of that. But so from the packing house, you were ultimately the EHS manager at the end of your tenure with the packing plant.
Yes. Yep.
And where'd you go from there?
I went to it was FlexCon in Columbus, Nebraska.
Oh yeah, of course. And I think that's where we met.
Yeah, I think it's where we met. They wanted to get into the VPP program, and so I started working there. I thought it seemed pretty exciting to build up, get to the VPP. And what I found there is they had everything in place, but everything was just this person was in charge of lockout tagout, this person's in charge of HAZCOM, and so it was just really scattered. And when I got there, they wanted me to centralize that stuff and get the VPP. And so what I did there basically was took the VPP application and I split it up into different sections and formed employee teams and made sure that there was a management person on each team. And so I had to actually employees wrote the application. And
really,
one of the big tricks I found was that they would see something and they would want to reinvent the wheel. But I think one of the big tricks, or one of the smartest things we did, was we tried to okay, what do we already have in place that we can kind of just tweak and fit into there instead of reinventing the wheel and everything. And it was really nice because after they wrote that, and I know you came in and
Matt
Gaines was there. I thought Matt was there. Yeah. And so they came in and actually defended the program because they wrote the things and stuff. And I think that's kind of what really sealed the star rating, was that
absolutely
flavor. Yeah.
I think that we had just talked about that before we started recording, and I think that I don't recall that specifically, but we talk all the time, and kind of this safety differently, modern safety. Everybody's talking about engaging employees, and you were doing that 25 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever that number is. How did you convince management that was a good approach? Were they resistant, or
they really weren't resistant to it? I think they tried to get the VPP rounded up for so many times it kind of failed that they just let me go at it. So
very cool.
And going back to the meat packing, that employee thing was I think one of the most important lessons I learned was you'd sit in an office, okay, this job over here, we need to change that and do this to that job. Well, if you don't go out and ask that employee, you're just changing, and they come in the next day, and if you change their work area and they don't know about it, they are upset. So what I found out is if you're looking for experts to really know that job, there's somebody that stands there and does it 8-10 hours a day. That's the expert, and so you get them involved in it. And I think another thing too is every site I've been to, there's always this old maintenance person walking around. And so if you ever have, how can I build something to fit right over that chain sprocket or whatever, you go find that person, and and they'll go in the shop and come back half hour later and it'll be solved, things like that. So that's really how, it really makes your job easier when you do involve them. So
man, you are years ahead of your time. I mean, these are things that I guess should have been more intuitive, but have never really been so. It's usually I have seen management, top down kind of, and that's we tell you what to do and you shut up and like it, or don't. But I think your comment about let's not change things without the employees' input,
right,
is a really insightful one.
And that's what I thought, when I worked for the meat packing, and they were building a whole new kill floor there, and I think at that time that whole kill floor was all redesigned with ergonomics in mind, and the employees, and it was really nice because the management required that each print had the employees who were affected had their signatures on that print.
Wow.
And so it was kind of nice, that floor was built thinking, how can I keep it clean? How can, not just safety, it's how can I improve the process and things like that. So,
Oh my God, John.
So
literally all of these concepts are concepts that I think some people consider to be relatively new.
Yeah.
But having the employees, even the idea of having them sign off on something,
Right.
they may not necessarily concur with everything, but at least they're aware of it. They've had some input into the decision making. That's impressive.
I think a lot of it came because me being the production employee for so long and knowing all the jobs, it kind of affected me that, hey, they're doing this to my job, and and it made it tougher instead of easier, and things like that. So
you're kind of like, so in addition to being an EHS manager, you're kind of a change management specialist as well, which seems, is kind of like a separate specialty in and of itself. But
it's one of my favorite things to do. If there's a, problem area, something like that, I like to get in there and, let's figure out how we're going to solve this thing and make it better. So
I love that, man. Yeah. That's impressive.
Yeah.
And FlexCon was an impressive place. I enjoyed it. It was really interesting. You guys, they did like laminate, kind of adhesive type.
Yeah, they apply, if you see the things on the side of buses and wraps and things like that, they make that material, they apply the adhesive to the back of it. And stuff.
Really interesting. I can remember walking through there. These are huge lines. So the production lines are really long and a lot of guarding with light curtains and things like that.
Yeah.
And I can remember walking through the plant one time and swinging my arm up to point at something and went right through a light curtain, shut the whole line down, and the operator came running around screaming like, what asshole, just, and everybody's looking at me because, the outsider, but really a fascinating plant, man.
Yeah. And that really helped me when I got, later on in my career, when I got in where there was a lot of robots and things like that, we didn't have robots there, but I did learn about, hey, whatever you do here might affect you down there. And really makes a difference, like on lockout, tag out also, just make sure, can that restart up, down there, things like that. So,
Interesting. So, so then from FlexCon and VPP Star, then you went, where'd you go from there? Was that Covidian next or?
I went to Covidian. Well, actually went to First Data, which is
that's right.
Fiserv here. So I worked there for 7 years.
Right.
Yeah. And that was an interesting one too, because
that was with Denny.
Denny Rohr.
Denny was there.
Yeah. Good guy. Yeah. That was a great job. They, I never realized how much was involved with that. I mean, they actually at one time they were doing more mail sorting than the post office was, here in town. And so I got involved in data centers and high-rise buildings and warehouses and there was, production with the credit card things and everything. So I was amazed how much there was actually involved there. So
that's really interesting. And that was about 7 years. That was here in Omaha.
Yeah. And one of our buildings right across from the old OSHA office. I remember I used to have to go over there when window washers would show up. OSHA would walk across the street and I'd have to go over there.
There was no place because that's exactly where Ben's office faced First Data across the street, man.
Yeah.
Oh, what a nightmare.
Yeah. I was thinking about that. They re-roofed that Wolf building, and I would not have wanted to have that job with.
Oh man, I can remember we would come back from lunch. 10 compliance officers would go out to lunch, come back, and there would be window washers, hanging out of aerial lifts, and not think, oh, you poor bastards. Who's going to take this? Everybody would look down because nobody wanted another number that week, But oh my gosh.
So that was a great job.
What did you learn at First Data? I mean, what did you add to your safety arsenal from that First Data experience?
I think that was my first multi-site experience.
Okay.
And so, they have stuff all over the United States. And then, when in the financial industry, the meat packing, of course, everybody realizes that you're in a hazardous industry and you have to really pay attention and things like that. But when you get in the financial industry, a lot of times they don't realize the hazards of, even in their office building, you have chillers and things like that running. You have maintenance guys that are doing that stuff. And so I think it really was educating people on that, hey, you do have the hazards here and things can happen. But
their perception was this is a low risk, low hazard industry. Why do we have to do those things?
Right.
Interesting.
Right. Yeah. So it's amazing that, even in a manufacturing plant, I think a lot of the managers don't understand the chillers and air compressors and things like that. So
I think that's not uncommon in a lot of industries that the risk perception is much lower than if you've been in the industry, perhaps.
Right.
Your perception is different than maybe an outsider who would come in and see a number of things that might be concerning.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So, yeah. And they were, I had pretty much free reign there and stuff, but, there were some sites where I'd have to go out and, they actually had enough equipment in there that I was needing to do a annual hearing, tests and that kind of stuff there. So, go in there and
very cool.
Yeah. So that's some of the stuff I learned there. Again, my wife didn't move to Omaha, and I was commuting for 7 years between Columbus and Omaha. So I got kind of tired of that, but
that's tough.
But I also did, it was really nice.
Why didn't you want to move to Omaha?
Too big for her.
Too big?
Yeah.
I agree. I'd like to go smaller personally.
Yeah. But, I did finish my degrees while I was here, and, got bachelor and then the MBA.
Yeah, I saw that
through Bellevue. So
nice.
So,
that's cool.
Yeah,
very cool.
It was And then I went to Covidian from there, so in Norfolk, Nebraska.
Okay.
And while I was there, it was Covidian, Medtronic, and then when I left, it was Cardinal Health. So
and what they did medical equipment, medical devices, and things.
Yeah, syringes, blood collection tubes, and almost all the blood collection tubes in the United States are plastic now, but that's one of the few places you can get glass because of, the plastic can interfere with some tests like cancer and things like that. So, but
and so that is a totally different level of like housekeeping and hygiene and those kind of things than you had experienced before.
Highly regulated. Yeah. And it's I think there's a lot of robots, a lot of robotics, a lot of automated type things.
Okay.
And, one of the big lessons I learned there, the first day I was there, they had a line where they had boxes. Employees would fill these boxes, set them on a conveyor, and they would go down the conveyor, and there was a great big arm in the conveyor that would flip the box up on its end and before it went into a packager, and that was covered with a big Lexan guard, and it was heavy. Employees were complaining that it was too heavy to pick up, and then it would drop on their fingers and things like that. And so they called me out there that first day and said, "Hey, will you help us figure out a guarding on this equipment?" And I got to looking at it, and I told them, "Why don't they just set the boxes at the right angle there, and then it'll go into the packaging machine? You don't even need this arm." And they were kind of like, and what I had found out, and anytime you make a change to any of that equipment, it's got to go through a big change control process. Everybody's got to sign off on it. The whole system's got to be revalidated. And so people really didn't look to make changes, because it involved a whole bunch of, bureaucracy.
Right.
And, but, that one, they pulled that out and, but it did work and stuff like that. But I actually had a maintenance manager tell me, "Don't be making too many changes around here."
We don't like paperwork.
Yeah. But it just kind of dawned. I was, why is it even in here, to turn that box? So,
that's really interesting. Yeah. and that's a question I think that gets unasked a lot. Why do we do this in the first place?
Yeah.
We work so hard to, to guard around or control those things, but sometimes they're not even necessary, or they can be.
People don't go past that engineering control on the, the hierarchy.
Yeah.
Got to look at can we eliminate this?
Right.
Yeah.
That is a really interesting one because I think that happens a lot.
Yeah.
That we just take for granted. This is a necessary
way we've always done it.
Function. We do it this way. And so let's just guard it, or let's just, more PPE or something.
Yeah. Yes. But that one,
well, they probably loved you after that, man. This is our guy, the savior.
And in that med device industry too, there's auditing. Everything is auditing, and safety is the same way. They're always coming in and auditing, and which kind of surprised me on some things is that they wouldn't show you the audit ahead of time, and so you couldn't prepare for the audit. They just show up with it, and it was kind of like a surprise audit, but and that all comes from the FDA regulation.
Okay.
So.
But those are not specifically employee safety audits.
Well, they will do employee safety audits. Yeah.
They do that.
Yeah. And every company I've been with in the med device industry and life sciences, they'll actually do the auditing and that kind of stuff. So, and usually it involves, a corporate team.
Okay.
And a lot of times they'll bring people from other plants and show up, which it's kind of a pain when you're that EHS guy, but it's also a good deal because sometimes they bring good ideas to you too, and things like that. So if if it isn't somebody there to just nail you, they're there to
I was
help.
going to say, you could get two kinds of auditors, probably. The people that are going to show off in front of you by belittling you or identifying deficiencies, and then the people that are there to help you get better.
Right. And I loved it when they were there to help you get better. And most of the time it was like that because they knew you're probably going to come in their place sometime down the road too. So,
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And at that job, that site, they also made me the facility safety manager later on, so I was in charge of all the maintenance. And it's when you're a safety guy, it's kind of nice to, hey, maintenance, you need to fix this. Well, now I was telling myself I need to fix it, so I was responsible for it. And I really learned some of the things that the managers, the maintenance people are facing. I learned a lot more about that, and it kind of helped me to when I approach them about safety, that I understand what they're going through to get things done and stuff like that. So
that's an interesting comment too, man, because I think that cross training or walking in those other shoes. I think everything is so interrelated that the maintenance function, the operations function, all of the auditing, quality, safety functions are so intertwined that we lose sight of the fact that the impact that some of those changes has on other folks.
Well, I've always said too that if you have a safety person that's figures themselves separate from that, you're probably not going to be very successful. You need to figure out how to integrate safety into the process, and then it becomes part of it. But if you're a separate entity, then they don't have to think about it when they're doing their production, things, that kind of thing. So really need to you need to understand that production process and what's going on there. Maybe not be the world's biggest expert at it, but you need to understand what they're going through and be able to integrate that into it.
Absolutely. I've read that or heard that many times and I think my buddy Pete Suska has mentioned that as well, that you really want to be an effective safety person. You have to learn and understand the processes. You have to understand what it takes to make this product.
Yeah.
And that impact that some of your suggestions or worse can have on that.
Right. Yeah. And it does make a big deal. Plus, it buys you the trust of the management, the plant, if they know that you've got their best interest at heart. And you come to them with hey, this is what has to be done, but you're not coming to them and telling them, this is how you're going to do this. And because, just tell them this is what needs to be done. How can we do it? And then work with them to integrate that in there. And you're a lot more successful that way, I think. So,
What a great comment, man, because usually we say we're trying to get the trust of the employees, but you also need the trust of the management, the operations folks, so that they truly believe you're not there to make their lives miserable.
Yeah.
That's a great comment.
Yeah. And, I think it helps a lot, though, when you have, like in the med device industry, the managers, there's that culture's already there that we expect this to be, we expect this to be done safely. And, so it does help you a bunch when you do go to them. You don't have to sell so hard. But
I was wondering about that. I was going to ask you about that because in that med device sector, you're being scrutinized by a lot of different organizations, agencies, what have you. And so that might actually drive that integration a little bit more than if all you ever see is OSHA.
Right.
Or something,
Well, and you can use it to your advantage too a lot because, before you change the lockout tagout program, you need to make, they have what they call controlled documents. So this is the only copy of it. And this is controlled. You can't make a change unless it goes through the whole process. Everybody sign off on it. And so I made sure all the safety programs were part of that controlled process, and so everybody would have to train on it. They'd have to test on it. They'd have to sign on it. And, and that document didn't change unless,
everybody agreed.
Everybody agreed to it. So, yeah.
Oh, I love that idea, man. I love that.
So then, they always have and one thing you have to be careful of, but, on the training part in the med devices, they'll almost always have an electronic training system. And so you can document all your trainings and everything through that, schedule them to pop up, if it's a yearly training, it'll pop up. It's every 3 years, it'll pop up at that time that, hey, you're due for this training type of deal. And so it's good for tracking it, but you can also go the other way and just have them signing in there, hey, I saw this document, type of thing. So,
Yeah.
so I really like to test the knowledges and stuff like that to make sure they did understand what they're going through. So, yeah.
The control document concept, would that have worked in like the packing house or the FlexCon or some of those areas? I mean, is that something that could be successful elsewhere?
I think it would, but it's a lot. It wouldn't have to be quite as strict as it was, because FDA is coming to look at things,
Right.
But yeah, I think it would. There isn't that many controlled, programs and stuff like that anyway for like EHS. They're
Right.
relatively speaking to the quality process.
Maybe
so,
a half a dozen or so, or give or take.
But it also worked too. What was good about that is, every job required that there be a SOP or done on each job and stuff like that. And safety was always one section of that. So when they were writing up in that FDA document, this is how the job's going to be performed. Safety would be in there. These are the safety steps we need to take, and this is the PPE we're going to wear, stuff like that. So
I love that.
Yeah.
So did you have like an internal software or something, or did you use a marketed program, or how did you?
Usually it was like a corporate type software. Yeah.
Internal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The training was, compliance wire, I think Enablon has some stuff, things like that. So, but yeah.
Useful.
Yeah. So, but it's really nice because even in my last job, if they're doing a plant audit, I want everybody's lockout tagout training. I can run a report, come out with a spreadsheet. Here's everybody's training. Here's their signature on it, and that kind of thing. So it's really nice.
That is nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's good for OSHA visits and things too, to be able to demonstrate that stuff pretty easily.
So I was thinking about in my career, you brought up OSHA and stuff, how many government agencies I've been through audits with. And I was thinking about that last night because, there's OSHA, I've been in EPA because that last place I was at, with Covidian, it was also a Superfund site. So, so I had to learn the EPA type stuff, but OSHA, EPA, National Nuclear Regulatory Agency, Department of Labor, FDA, I'm trying to, the State
USDA
Department.
back in the
USDA.
meat days.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
How much bureaucracy can be created from that? But
isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
And just as a business person, to be responsible to all of those agencies, you don't even, that's not half of the agencies that the company's responsible to. Those are just in the EHS realm of things.
Yeah, it was amazing.
It is really burden. I mean, I know, and you know, I mean, just our little world as a consultant, know, I mean, certainly the IRS, and we all do what we have to do with the, as far as the IRS is concerned, but then, dealing with OSHA on behalf of your clients, possibly the Department of Labor and others, there's, it can be overwhelming. I don't know.
But that's one thing that I think is important, that is as a safety person, a safety professional, that you keep your reputation intact, because when you do deal with those agencies, a lot of times, the OSHA office, the people that knew me and things like that, and if you're going to mess up your name, then they're going to know your name too for that. So,
absolutely. So, everyone has a reputation in the office, at least from my experience. They either think highly of you, that you're a do the right thing person, or they think you're a crook, or they don't know who you are.
Right.
But really, you have just three possible identities as far as the age, and it's a big deal. And I mean, if we would get sent out to a company that we felt wasn't really interested in doing the right thing, you approach that investigation differently than if you go out to a company that you think, well, these guys are they're trying, they're doing a good job, and things happen, but totally different. We went hunting for companies on occasion, so that's a big deal, man.
But at that Covidian, I mentioned that was a Superfund site.
Yeah. Was it their fault? I mean, were they the responsible party, or
no? It was
the previous
several
owners?
Companies before.
Okay.
And actually, that company still owned the responsibility for that Superfund site.
Yeah.
So when I worked on that part, that company actually paid my salary. I would charge my hours and that to them.
Is that right?
Yeah.
To the primary responsible party, or whatever.
But before I left there, we actually got that cleaned up, and I was able to EPA closed it down. So that was kind of nice. But I sure learned a lot from that experience. So.
Oh my God, your background is You have an amazing background. You've done a lot of things.
Lots of stuff. Yeah. And at the time, like I said, when I first started out, it's still, you get thrown into that and you're either going to sink or swim, it's not somebody there teaching you how to swim. Yeah. So,
oh my God, John. So you basically, have you ever worked for another safety person? I mean, have you had a mentor or a manager that you were, or you've just had to learn all this on your own?
I just learned on my own. I think, Danny was, one of the, but yeah. So yeah, it was a lot of sink or swim moments. So.
Man, that's really remarkable.
Yeah. And
most people would crumble under that pressure.
Yeah. I think I told you earlier, though, I like the challenges in that. It's, I'm not so happy, not so pleased with doing all the routine, mundane type things, but
and actually you shouldn't have to do those things typically. Other than just a lack of resourcing perhaps, but
yeah.
A lot of the day-to-day things can probably be done by employee groups, or as you safety committees, things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you mentioned safety committees too. That was one of my first experience when I worked for, Meatpack, and they assigned me the safety committees. And that was where I'd sit in a room, they'd all show up, yell. I'd have a list of stuff,
right.
What is going on here? Yeah. And so I really started pushing back that, hey, employees got to take some responsibility here. They can't wait another month. You got this, safety issue, and then they wait a month and come tell me in a meeting, so I started requiring that they also bring in, what did you do about it when you saw it, type of deal, and really reinforcing that. And that was an important lesson I learned. But I think another important lesson was, always have those one or two people in that committee that are just, a pain in the rear or whatever. And I found out that they're just kind of looking for some more responsibility or something. And so I'd start giving them, more tasks to, hey, by the next meeting, would you go check on it? And they would jump at it and do it. And then next thing you know, they were a productive part of the safety committee rather than,
interesting,
a big,
that squeaky wheel.
Yeah.
But they really, that's interesting, because I've heard other safety managers tell me that same thing. Seek out that person and engage them, and, make a disciple out of them, make an advocate out of them.
Yeah. It does work. Yeah. Yeah.
And make your life easier too.
Yeah, it does. It does. It makes it a lot easier.
But how did you, so this is kind of a side question, but how do you transform then? And I guess you've touched on it, a safety committee that is just basically an hour of complaining and bitching into a productive unit. Is that how you did it?
Yeah. And yeah, I think for one thing is we would meet for a few minutes in there, but then we would go out into the production area and look at what they're talking about. And we'd get the supervisor of the area over there and say, hey, this is a complaint that we have here. Have you run into this? Yeah, we've been trying to solve it for a long time. And so, hey, let's get the right people there and solve it. Rather than me having a list, it's out where it's supposed to be. And all of a sudden you have a plan of how they're going to resolve the problem. But if you're just going to sit in the room, in an office somewhere or conference room, it's probably not going to go very well, because it's just a lot of talking and listening and things like that.
Right. So, somebody's scribbling a bunch of notes.
Yeah.
The notes, the meeting minutes come out a month later, and it's got a list of all of those things.
Yes.
Nothing's been done.
Right.
That's true.
And, after Covidian, Medtronic, Cardinal Health, I went to work for Jones Lang LaSalle.
Yeah, I didn't. JLL.
Yeah. And they do facilities maintenance and I was on a contract for BD. They do, make medical devices and all that kind of stuff.
Big outfit up in Columbus and all over the world.
Yeah, all over the world. Yeah. So we had, United States, Mexico, Latin America, and China. So, but I kind of lost track where I was going there. But one thing I, found out there, then I had to use a lot more electronics, because I was, being assigned sites that I've never really been to. And you had to really kind of make sure that the management at the site was trained on what they needed to do and that they're doing it and that kind of thing.
And would you have like an on-site presence, some kind of an on-site safety person that you would give instruction to, or how did you do that?
We would take one employee and say, okay, now you're the safety contact at the site. And do some training on them, things like that. Yeah.
And so did those people volunteer for that, or were they selected typically, or how did those people?
Kind of a mixture of it. Yeah. But some sites, there's only one person, so you're it,
Yeah.
But most of the sites had like a facilities manager there, and they're, found out a lot of the facilities maintenance managers, they understand the safety pretty well because, and they're involved in every time they make a change,
right.
the machine guarding, all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
they're pretty, they were pretty easy to work with that way and stuff. But I was also the quality director for the company too. So, in the United States, Mexico, we had 48 sites in the United States, I think, and then we had Mexico and
that you were responsible for?
Yes.
Holy shit.
Yes. It was a big job. So,
oh, John, that's enormous.
But I remember where I was going now before, but they had a program, they called, it was a good catch, which, you're probably familiar with, but when I got there, the good catch was kind of the same way. Hey, I saw this today, and they turn it in, and I go, okay, well, what good is this doing? And so our good catches, they had to put on what they saw and what they did about it. And, and at first I just started counting numbers of them. I just wanted people to get used to putting them in,
just do them.
Yeah. And so you'd get them. And then the JLL did a pretty good job of, they would reward all the safety professionals from each account would get together and look through these good catches and designate one as the winner, and that person would get $250. And so that was kind of nice. That started improving the quality of them and things like that. And it was kind of nice, but I don't know, did my heart good because I remember reading one. They had a steam valve in this boiler area, and the guy said they had to put a ladder up against a piece of equipment, stand on this other piece of equipment, turn the valve, and they'd done it for years. And he says, I went in. The boiler was shut down for inspection, so I relocated the valve at floor level, things like that, and it really did your heart good when you see stuff like that. So, yeah.
Oh, that's nice. And I think just the idea of encouraging people to be involved in the solution as much as just identifying the problem,
right,
is really helpful.
Yeah,
it's easy to just point at things that could be better.
Yeah.
But coming up with a way to improve them is
and that's the same important. Way when you're going in and doing an audit at a site, try to, instead of just coming up with the problem, I try to say, hey, maybe you could do this or maybe do that, type of deal. So,
I do like that. Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. So, so you've been with half dozen companies over your career.
Yep.
Is there anything about the leadership or management at any of those companies? You don't have to name the company specifically, but that, what makes the difference in a program?
I think the management setting up the expectations of, most of the good most of the companies I worked for were good, but there was always an expectation that safety will be done, and JLL, every meeting started up with a toolbox talk, a safety moment, they call it. Every meeting started with that, and then safety was always part of the discussions and things like that. So, I think they set it up that they expect that to be done. And sometimes though, you want to make sure, because it gets down where it meets the road, that, hey, there might be some cost involved in doing this, and, how committed are you to really fixing that problem, and, and that's where I think, like I said, come up with different solutions to maybe present to those managers and things like that. But I think, in the life sciences, it was real easy because they're all already highly regulated and they know they're going to be audited and things like that.
Yeah, so they understood that.
Yeah. But, in the meat packing, when I first started with there was no commitment to safety. It was, in fact, when I first started there, my hands using the knife and my hands were sticking shut. And so I'd run them under hot water, and I went into work and I talked to a nurse there and I go, hey, hand keeps sticking shut. And she goes, you ain't man enough to do the job. Get out of here. We'll get somebody that will. I go,
oh my God. I go, that was the nurse?
Yeah.
Oh,
I go,
nice.
Okay, see you later. Went out there and went to work, and, to see that evolve as the years went on, there was a lot more commitment to it, and I think, complain about OSHA as you will, but OSHA really drove that at that night when they started really focusing on that
they did
industry. So yeah.
That's an interesting question. There are a lot of good things about OSHA. There's certainly things that could be done differently, and that's just an opinion. I don't, there's no real documentation to support that, but I think it has a purpose, and it has certainly motivated some industries to improve.
Yep.
You know, packing, meat packing, construction, some of those highly hazardous industries.
Well, with that meat packing too, you know, with the OSHA being involved, then the UFCW is at the site also.
Oh yeah.
And so, you know, there was we actually came up with an ergonomic agreement. The company did with them about, hey, we're going to start changing this. And, you know, there was a actually written contract between them on the ergonomic. So, and it was kind of strange because at the time I was the only trainer for the whole facility. But when that came into place, we had 8 trainers and I was their supervisor. And so we had some on the slaughter side, some on the fabrication side. And so they really increased that, you know, training. Our orientation went from 1 hour to 1 week, you know, and things like that. So, you know,
specifically on ergonomic issues
and ergonomic and all safety and
safety in general. Oh, very cool.
And so they would, first day was all totally classroom for orientation. And then every day after that, they worked half production, half classroom. And it was really nice because then you would hear the issues they were having while they're out there.
These are new hires?
Yeah.
Specifically?
Yeah.
Okay.
You could see how they were acting if they looked injured and things like that, you know. So it's
kind of a job hardening as well. If you're only maybe working partial days, you're not.
Yeah. So, and I will say, there's one supervisor there when I first started there. And like I said, it was when I went in there, they put safety equipment on me, gave me the knives and stood me at the table. Right. I remember there was a person next to me and I says, what am I supposed to do? You got the job without me, you do it without me. Okie dokie. Oh, no.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Welcome. Huh?
Yeah. But I was just starting to work and then a tap on my shoulder and looking, it was a supervisor and he took me off in a little room and he told me, he says, you know, John, you know, you need to be doing this. If your knives are dull, your hands are going to hurt. You need to really learn how to sharpen knives. Went through that with me and told me all the expectations and stuff. And he did that off and on. And I always credit him for, as I got into that safety thing and things like that, I always thought back to that lesson, you know, how he took a personal interest in every new person. And so I think I really kind of stole some of his management techniques, you know.
I think that's how we learn. I mean, if we're fortunate enough to work for someone who, you know, who has good characteristics as a leader, man, I mean, they would just steal that shit shamelessly.
They always say that, steal shamelessly on safety, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And that's where you had mentioned earlier that you had worked pretty closely with the union.
Yep.
The UFCW. You actually kind of shocked everybody by bringing some of the union representatives into the fold and assigning them safety
part of that agreement was that I had to have an assistant, and we worked it out where it was actually a union steward was my safety assistant, which was kind of, what the, you know, type of deal. But OSHA came in just to do a general inspection wall to wall. And so, like I said, they were shocked when I signed union stewards to go with them because, you know, they were splitting up. There were, you know, 2 of them in that. And so there was me and actually that union steward went with them with no other management person. And they were kind of, give me the, I can't believe this type of deal.
That's interesting.
And after that, they did talk about, you know, you should try to bring your site into VPP because you know, you had all the documentation and you had employee involvement and things like that. So
that's amazing, man. I think, you know, I know that you're kind of going out on your own now. You're going to be helping companies. You have so much experience to draw from. And having moved so many companies in that direction, I think this is going to be a really good fit for you, man. I think.
Yeah, I hope so.
I think you would really enjoy that.
Yeah, and it's. I think the variety of ministries have been a help too.
It does. Yeah, you've done a lot of things, and that's one of the things that I've always felt fortunate about, having the opportunity to see so many different industries. But I've never implemented safety programs. You know, I've critiqued lots and lots of safety programs. But having done that yourself, I think that's going to be really helpful, man.
Yeah, I think, and like I said, one of my favorite things is to do the project. So if there's, hey, we've been trying to solve this for a while, we can't quite get there or whatever, you know, that's one of my favorite things to do. You know?
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a lot of clients that could use help with some problem solving and things like that.
Yeah,
I think there's just, you know, so much room for improvement in most safety committees. You know, most safety committees aren't terribly effective. You know, the change management type things aren't always very effective. You know, what are the consequences of this change going to be? Right. There tends to be a lot of knee-jerk safety management. You know, we have a problem. Now we're
Right.
Now
right.
we're addressing it,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And OSHA was like that. I mean, the agency was like that. We'd have something would explode somewhere, and all of a sudden we'd have a combustible dust standard or,
Yeah.
something similar,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. And I did learn a lot of lessons that I didn't necessarily invent, but, I think back to, the ergonomic thing, adjustability was always the thing. But when you're working on a production line, you're standing next to that. How do you make adjustable? You can make stands maybe adjustable, but if you're walking and so, I think back to one issue that they pull clods, they call it, or, meat going along and you're going like the cutting as we're walking along the line.
Mm-hmm.
And it was funny because there was a guy on there that was 6'6", and there was a guy on there 5'8". And so how do you adjust this line? And it actually, one of the employees came up with the idea, why don't we slant it up? And then you can this guy can work on that end, this guy can work on it, wherever it feels more comfortable for you.
So in the incline somewhere, you would be able to position yourself so that
along
that
the
makes
incline.
sense.
Yeah. Things like that, some are really simple solutions. So
Mm-hmm.
but
oftentimes they are.
Yeah,
I think we make them a little harder than they need to be sometimes.
Yeah.
But maybe that's, again, a perspective thing. Maybe you need someone who is not quite as familiar, or just doesn't do it every day. We kind of we habituate some of those signals and signs. They just become background noise.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So I'm kind of excited about the new chapter here. And
that's
and see where
awesome,
it goes.
man.
So
the name of the company
is John Thiem Safety Innovations, and
I love that.
Yeah, I'm trying to cut it down to JJ.
Right. You'll need an acronym.
JTSI.
Yeah, I like that. And the website, John Thiem
Safety.com.
It's THIEM.
Yep.
Yeah, man, good. So you're in town for the weekend, you mentioned. You live in Columbus.
Yep,
So Columbus is home.
Yep.
Columbus, Nebraska.
Yep. And
just in town, come into the big city for the weekend.
Yeah.
So you don't like us during the week when it's all crowded and traffic,
right.
but on the weekend when you need some entertainment
for the party.
That's right. Exactly. Man.
Yeah.
Are you from Nebraska? Are you originally from Nebraska?
Born in Albion, Nebraska. Yeah.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Albion, Nebraska. Oh man! So that's the home of St. Patrick's Day. Is that the big St. Patrick's Day?
No, that's O'Neill. That's
O'Neill. Yeah. Okay.
Albion's over there by Lindsay, a little bit closer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. So
farming background or what
we during high school, I graduated high school from Imperial, Nebraska, out in the West, and my dad was an electrical person for Zematic. So
no kidding.
Lindsay Manufacturing. Yeah.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
Worked for him for years out in the field,
Mm-hmm.
And so
center pivot stuff and irrigation.
Learned a lot from him on that. Yeah.
I'll bet.
He's one of those kind of guys that can like a problem, then go back in and come out with something he just made that'll, So
he could really visualize it.
Yeah.
The solution.
Yeah.
And it seems like you do that as well. He's given you that gift.
Yeah. Hopefully I'll learn some of that from him. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's cool. And you said your background was in electronics. Originally you were interested in electronics.
Yeah. I worked for a phone company for about 3 years. Yeah.
Nice.
Yep. So I got a lot of.
So do you consider yourself a qualified person electrically?
No, I do not. Although I did with JLL, I did go through the training and did become a qualified electrician. Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah.
Interesting.
But I'm not going to go do any wiring or anything like that. But I do understand it. Yeah. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Oh, I love this, man. Yeah. I'm so glad. I'm glad to have you in the ranks of people that I think, so much experience and to draw on. I think this is going to be a good fit, man. Yeah. I think you're going to love it.
Forgotten about most of it till we start talking here.
Oh, it's been a pretty interesting ride, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And it's all because somebody said, give Thiem that safety shit back in the old packing house days.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, I thought I was being done dirty.
That's right. Isn't that interesting? I think we all felt that way in the beginning. Those of us that didn't go into safety with intention. Yeah. That wasn't what we had originally planned, and we just found our way into the safety world. But it is an incredibly rewarding field, man, for people that embrace it. And
it is. One thing I would say, though, I think is EHS people, and I learned this later on in my career, but it is also a very high pressure, and it can really start mentally affecting you if you need to take some time to get away from there. I know, some of the jobs I had, you're like 24/7 because you're getting calls, maybe run third shift operations and things like that.
Yeah.
I'd say for your sanity, get away for a week and,
Yeah.
things like that, and really take care of yourself also. So
I would agree. Well, that's a great comment, man.
Yeah.
And it's hard to do.
It is.
I mean, you just feel like you can't be away sometimes.
Yep.
But you actually need it.
Yep. That's where you need a consultant come in and help you with it.
That's exactly right. I totally agree. I love it. I think you and my buddy Pete are going to, because you have so much breadth of experience, operations, maintenance, safety, EHS, all of those things. You've done all of those things, which really gives you an interesting perspective on it all, man. So.
Yeah, I was even human resources manager for a while.
Oh my God! Ooh, that's punishment.
Yeah, it is.
I think that was actually done dirty.
Yeah,
you have to do the HR.
Nobody happy comes to you in your HR.
No. I would think
they're
not.
Always mad
When the door opens. It's only going to be a problem.
Yeah.
Oh, good, man. It's good to see you again, John.
All right.
I look forward to working with you. This is we just touched on your experience, but you have done it all. So
thanks for having me.
I think it's been a pleasure, man. Enjoy your weekend here in the big city. Stay out of trouble, and don't call me if you need something at 3 a.m.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm going to be the chauffeur. So I'm the designated driver for my wife and 2 other women. And
good for you, man. That'll be fun.
I'll be tortured tonight.
Well, you deserve that too, probably. Well, everybody, thanks. Have a great weekend. I hope you had a good week, and I have a great week next week. And appreciate you listening. I do want to mention we've added a new sponsor to the program. I am really excited to announce that Liquid Trucking Company is sponsoring the program as well. Good friends of mine, Gabe and Josh and everybody down at Liquid Trucking. So thank you very much for your support. We appreciate it. And have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next Friday. Bye-bye, everybody.